Why wait for a breakthrough when it's already in your blood? On Disrupt and Discuss, we are bypassing the lab and going straight to the source. Jemma reveals how stem cell therapy flipped the script on her recovery and put her back in the game. Stop settling for maintenance and start choosing mastery. The future is internal. Disrupt and Discuss.
Could feel there was a presence. I opened my eyes and there's a doctor at the end of my bed, but it's not my normal oncologist, it's one of the residents who I had built a rapport with. And I said, "Hey doctor, what's going on?" He's like, "How do you feel?" And I was like, "I don't feel so great." He's like, "I ordered for an ice mattress to come because your fever is up to 104 and we need to get it down."
Especially the second time. Did it go through your mind, I might not make it?
I said, "What are we doing different? Am I going through another 6 months of chemo?" He's like, "No, we're going to do this transplant." I'm not going to name him because I don't want to get in trouble. He just retired. But I did ask, I said, "Am I going to die?"
We have another one that we want to kick off with. Let's get into this one. Today's conversation, this one forces you to rethink everything you think you know about your body and survival. We're talking about a woman who faced stage 3B Hodgkin's lymphoma, was pushed to the point where her body had to be completely wiped out. And then something most people don't even realize is possible. She rebuilt using her own cells, not someone else's, not a shortcut, not luck, her own biology. Let that sit for a second, because most people are taught when something breaks, you look outside yourself to fix it. But what happens when the solution is already built inside you? Today, we're joined by Jemma, founder of Gemstone Consulting Group, Inc., a woman who went from fighting for her life to rebuilding her entire system from zero to now operating as a high-performance athlete and a decision maker in rooms that shape the future of health. And today, we're not here for a highlight reel. We're getting into it. What it actually feels like to hit day zero. What survives when your body is stripped down to the core? And what changes when you realize you were never as dependent on a system as you were taught to be? Because this isn't just about cancer. This is about identity. This is about control. This is about ownership. And the uncomfortable question most people avoid. If everything in your life got wiped out tomorrow, would you know how to rebuild? D&D family, welcome, Jemma.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
As you well know, I met Jemma at the Blocks, season 17. Look, I'm always looking for a reason to plug that. I think we were either in the food line, and then we just kind of just started talking because I started to get more comfortable with being uncomfortable with speaking with people that you never met. You and I had struck up a conversation because we had the same tagline in common.
Oh yeah, yes we do. Oh my God, I think of you every time I say it.
When Jemma started sharing her story with me, like I said, my mouth just dropped. I was like, are you kidding me? So the whole heck of talking about entrepreneurship, how she healed herself, took precedent over everything. Without further ado, I'm going to just shut the hell up and let Jemma explain it, because it is friggin' amazing how your body is set up. So, Jemma.
Yes, ma'am. Usually when I tell my story, I try to tell people, you mentioned we look outside of ourselves for the answer, right? Thanks to science, I got the backup that it's not always outside of you, it's inside of you. The story I was sharing with you when I met you was how I had cancer twice. I'm a 2-time cancer survivor of stage 3B Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is cancer of the lymphatic system. And when I was diagnosed, I was 23 years old. I was a mom. My kid was 2 years old at the time, and I was relatively newly married. I was maybe 3-4 years married. It took about almost 7 months before we even figured out I had cancer. I originally just started off having like a cold in like the winter months or whatever. And I went to see the doctor and I was given an antibiotic, and the cold went away. But however, a few months later, I had cold symptoms again. And I went back to the doctor. I'm like, I still feel sick. I have these fevers. I just don't feel right. And then he's like, you're also a little bit overweight. You just had a child not that long ago. Maybe we need to change your diet also. We changed my diet. And then another few months passed by. And now we're like into June, July. We're like in the summer months. And by this time, I have a fever of 103, 104 at night. I'm losing weight. I lost 20 pounds out of nowhere. I had missed 17 days of work, not in a row. I was an accounting analyst for a major telecom company out here in Chicago. I got written up because I had missed so much work. And so I had to start forcing myself into work. And I would bring a thermometer with me and be like, hey, I have a fever. Luckily, the bosses could see that I was sick. So I would go home and try to get better. The only reason why I didn't go to an emergency room is because I grew up with a mom who was a nurse. And not that she told me not to go, but it was like, the logic was like, why am I going for them to give me Tylenol? I didn't think anything else was wrong with me besides I couldn't just shake this flu or this cold that I had. I went back to my doctor the third time and he was like, I think you need to be on Xanax. Because he started thinking like, I don't know, I was mentally ill, not mentally ill, but like more of a, what is it? The person who always thinks they're sick all the time, a hypochondriac. Yeah. So I was like, so he gave me a script and I was like, screw this script. No. I hired myself a therapist after that appointment. I was starting to talk out my issues, or so what I thought were the issues that was causing me to be sick. I'd gone back to work. I was sick again. And I showed my boss like, hey, can I leave? I have a fever. My mom's clinic, she worked for an infectious disease doctor, was just down the road. I drove to her office. And she had me see the doctor. And it was weird to me because I was like, why am I seeing an infectious disease doctor? I don't think I have an infectious disease. But we were just tired of me going to my primary and we needed another opinion. When I went to him, she left the room because I was 23 at the time. So she felt like she didn't need to be in there. And so he goes and he feels my neck and he's asking me the questions. I told him all my symptoms and everything. Then he's like, I need a moment. I was like, okay. Then he leaves the room and he comes back and he's like, I think you have a textbook case of lymphoma. I didn't know what that word meant at the time. And I was like, what's lymphoma? He's like, you know what? I'll be back. And then I was like, okay, why is he leaving again?
Oh, not good.
He leaves. My mom comes in and she's crying. And I was like, what's going on? And she's like, you have lymphoma. I was like, I don't know what that word is. You guys keep using it. And she's like, you have cancer. I was shocked. I was like, cancer from what? What did I do? And so I was a teenage smoker. And my mom was like, maybe it was the cigarettes you smoked in high school. And at the time I was like, oh my God, okay, maybe. You fast forward, I get admitted to the hospital nearby. And her doctor calls my doctor and pretty much has it out with him. And I get an oncologist assigned to me right away. So, and then the first thing, I'll never forget when I met my oncologist, he comes in and he's like an old school doctor. He's a tall doctor, skinny. He has a doctor bag, leather and stuff. And
oh, wow. Dr. Welby.
Yeah.
Wow.
He was like, old school doctor. I was like, whatever this cancer is, this guy's going to cure me. I was kind of skeptic about it. And then, so anyways, after he did his official intake of me, I asked him, I said, whatever this cancer is, can it be from smoking? And he said, no. And of course, rebellious me was like, haha, mom, it's not from cigarettes.
Oh my God.
So, but that's the story of how I was officially diagnosed the first time. I went through chemo for 6 months. And back then you couldn't work remote. There was no online working. So I had to take the 6 months off. I went back to work shortly after that. And my cancer was in remission. 3 months later, I was scratching my neck and I felt a lump. So I called my mom and I went back to her doctor. And then her doctor's like, call your oncologist. You probably need to have another biopsy to see what's going on. They did a second biopsy. I had a biopsy the first time I was diagnosed. When I had the biopsy, they're like, yeah, you have cancer again. So I said, well, what are we doing this time? What's going to be different? My oncologist said, you're going to need a stem cell transplant. But at the time I was right away, because I hear transplant, I think I need a donor.
Me too. I would have thought that too.
And I only have one biological sibling. So already in my head, I'm like preparing to have this conversation with her about like, I need your stem cells, right? Because like, who else am I going to ask? And so he had told me, he said, well, let's test you first, because there's a chance that your cancer has not hit your stem cells. To also better understand what stem cells are stored in your bone marrow. That's why there's bone marrow transplants and stem cell transplants. What happens is that your stem cells go into your bloodstream over time, and then they become the things that your body needs. Maybe you're low on platelets, maybe you're low on red cells and white cells and all the things. His hope was that my cancer didn't affect that area of my blood. He did a bone marrow biopsy, which I don't recommend if you don't need one. I felt like a bottle of being uncorked because
they say they're painful.
They are painful. They gave me extra Twilight and extra pain meds to get me through it. Like I said, don't recommend it. But anyways, So they did the testing and we found out the cancer didn't hit my bone marrow. I got to be my own donor. And believe it or not, it was a relief because I'm an independent woman. I don't want to ask anyone else me, let alone for your stem cells or some body part. We prepared for that. So the way that looked was I had chemo for a day for like 8 hours prior to my going in. That was like one part of wiping out my system. And then it was to just stabilize the tumors from going anywhere else. Then I was prescribed Neupogen, which is a shot that boosts your cell levels. The whole point is so that we can push my stem cells out of my bone marrow into my bloodstream and they can be extracted.
Ooh, interesting.
So I had to do it for 30 days. For 30 days every day, I had to pinch an inch and just push the medicine through via a needle. That was like, that was something that I wasn't used to. I have never injected myself before with anything. So to have to do that, then 30 days later, I go into the clinic. And for those who've never seen what it looked like to give your stem cells away, it's called an apheresis machine. If you've ever given blood, it's a machine that pulls out your blood, but also pulls out what it needs. It was pulling out my stem cells and recycling back everything else into my system.
Okay. Like dialysis, right?
Yeah, like dialysis or giving plasma. Yeah, so it was washing out what it needed, took my stem cells and gave me back everything else. Then from there, I got to go home, live a normal life for about a month. But they always prepare someone who's doing a transplant to see if they can have anybody sign up to be a blood donor in the event you need transfusions. Just in case like doesn't have your blood type. I'm type O, so I'm pretty good with that stuff. And the telecom company I worked for, my boss came to me and he's like, is there anything you need during this process? We always have life source blood drives. I was like, can we ask this is way before all the HR rules now, but I was like, can we ask the team if they'd be willing to sign up as my donor if needed? And he did. He blasted out a company email. There was 150 on staff at the time for the division I worked for. And yeah, people signed up. He was one of the first people to sign up, which was awesome.
Amazing.
He was super supportive throughout the whole entire process. That write-up that I had for being out of work 17 days was now written away, magically disappeared, was non-existent once I was diagnosed the first time. So I go into the hospital to be ready for transplant. Back then, in 2002 or 2003, they say that it's going to be 30 days that you'll be in the hospital. Today, it's only 18 days. It's crazy. Technology and everything. Which
Right,
we'll get
technology.
to. But yeah, back then, we didn't have iPads. I had to bring magazines, books, VHS tape, the
Right.
TV combos in the hospital rooms. I literally walked in with DVDs and with a rollaway bag like I was going on a cruise ship. The nurses joke, are you going to Club Med? I guess so. That's what you're calling this.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
My
right?
question is, what was the response of the doctor that initially kept treating it as though it was the flu or the cold symptoms that you were showing?
The best he could do
Your
was
PCP?
yeah, my primary care, the best he could do was apologize. He had, according to my mom, she said that he felt so guilty for missing my diagnosis. But like, other than that, it wasn't like he was around during my time of care. Like I was transferred off to the oncologist and I was kind of like, I didn't go back to him once I was done with everything. I changed primaries. I lost trust.
Absolutely.
Right.
Not only that,
Absolutely.
I've been seeing this doctor since I was a teenager. So he was like my family doctor growing up.
And that's a good and bad thing, right? It's good that he knows you, but it also causes, in my opinion, maybe they get a little complacent
Right?
because they know you.
I feel that way, especially when
I
you look
agree.
back at comments about like, well, you're overweight, you just had a kid, like you've been through a lot, maybe you need a Xanax now.
Now I'm psycho, now I'm mental.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's not. So tell me about it. I go through the stem cell transplant. I get to the hospital. And so the first week of transplant process is you get high dose chemo. The way I explain it to people, technically laymen who are not experienced with this, is that just imagine like you have a classic car. You're a car collector. You have this classic car and you need to take out all the old parts because you want this car to run, right? But you slowly take out everything and then you slowly replace it with new parts. And you check the oil and you check the things to see if it's all working together. Similar process, except it's utilizing chemotherapy. I had chemo for the first week. And every day they draw your blood and check your numbers. So they want you to go from like whatever healthy numbers are to what they call neutropenic in the medical field. So you're negative everywhere. Your immune system just doesn't exist anymore. And so you're in isolation at the hospital. Everyone has to wash their hands, wear gloves before they see you. No one can come in with a cold. There's no raw food allowed in the room, no flowers, anything that might change the environment for the person who's immunocompromised, right? You're bound to get anything that anyone has on because you have nothing to defend yourself with, right? So the best part was, in a sense, was my mental state, because despite not taking Xanax, I'm a very positive minded person. So I was bored, and KayCee knows this about me. I don't want to sit still. I don't sit still. And I'm in this hospital. I'm not even allowed to walk the floor like normal patients can. I only can walk my room. I'm like, is there anything I can do? I'm like, can I visit other cancer patients? Like, come on, let me do something. The hospital I was at here in Chicago was a teaching hospital. I didn't just have the oncologist. I had a training team of doctors who were all residents. They're all taking notes every day for the first round. They were there with their notepads and everything. I just got entertained by asking them questions and them asking me questions and stuff. Anyways, the week goes by and they're like, how do you feel? You know, they're checking my temperatures. Everything's going in the direction it's supposed to, but they were surprised how I wasn't like, for as white as a ghost as I could have been, I had my personality. You know what I mean? Not me. I was just a slower me, if that makes sense.
Makes sense.
So yeah, so much so to the point, like one evening, I guess my numbers dropped really bad. My fever spiked up really high. And I was sleeping in my room, but I could feel there was a presence. So I opened my eyes and there's a doctor at the end of my bed, but it's not my normal oncologist. It's one of the residents who I had built a rapport with. And I said, hey, doctor, what's going on? He's like, how do you feel? And I was like, well, I don't feel so great. He's like, I ordered for an ice mattress to come because your fever is up to 104 and we need to get it down. Literally a twin size ice pack comes rolling into my room. They have to transfer me onto it because my fever is going up so quickly that they're afraid I'm going to go into some kind of shock. That's the kind of care that I had. And that's the things that was happening to my body. This is long before cold plunges was a thing. Like human ice pack comes in and I get laid onto it and everything. They eventually get my fever down. And by the end of the week, my numbers are supposed to be where they're at. And they're like, okay, we're going to give you your stem cells back now. The nice part is it's not a surgery. It's literally like getting blood. It's like getting a transfusion. They hang the bag of your stem cells, which they have stored in a cryo type freezer and everything. They slowly give it back to you, and then they watch to see if you have any reactions, because you can have reactions to your own cells, believe it or not. That's what graft versus host disease is. And
Wow.
so luckily I was okay. I needed 5 units of blood after that. So I had 5 different transfusions. My numbers slowly climbed back up, and I got to get out in 18 days back then when the norm was 30. I remember asking my oncologist, it was the day before my son's birthday. My son was born September 1st. I went into the hospital the week of August 18. My transplant was on the 18th. Then, yeah, I got to go home the day before. I had asked my doctor, I said, why am I able to go home faster than what you told me? And he said, honestly, Gemma, I think it was your positive attitude, because all you kept doing was looking forward. What's today? What are we doing today? It was never like, woe is me. Why am I here? It was never none of that. It was just like, I'm here. You gave me the assignment. So what is the next step?
I love that.
Now here I am 23 years out. And when people ask me all the time, what did you do to go into remission? I said, I saved my own life. I had everything I needed, literally was in me.
This is like a really rare, is it still rare?
I have, from research and from talking to other oncologists, yes. The autologous stem cell transplant is not highly used in the cancer setting for, you either have Hodgkin's or non-Hodgkin's, and that's when they do the biopsies. Hodgkin's lymphoma means your cancer runs up and down your lymphatic system. When they looked at the nodule that they took out to biopsy, they could see that it literally does run up and down my system. It never deviated outside of my lymphatic system. Okay. When the cancer deviates from the lymphatic system, that's when it's considered non-Hodgkin's. Most patients in the non-Hodgkin setting, from my understanding as a layman who has talked to researchers and stuff about this and doctors, most patients go through allogeneic stem cell, which is where you get a donor. The way I remember is auto is like autobiography. I use my own cells. Allogeneic is I need to ask someone if they will allow me to use their cells. So it's more common to have a donor versus being your own.
Wow. When you say lymph nodes, I always figure here, right? Because your lymphatic system.
Yep.
I constantly massage this. I had no idea that the lymph nodes or the lymphatic system is
up and down
through your body.
Oh, yeah. My tumor, how they knew I was stage 3B was B means with fever. A is without, B is with fever. Then stage 3 because I had lymph nodes or tumors from my neck all the way down to my groin. And it affected my spleen. It means it affected one organ. If it goes above more than one organ, then I would have been stage 4. Wow. Oh yeah, it was insane. I went from thinking I had the flu to feeling like I don't feel like myself. But like the fact that I was able to mentally push myself so that my body would respond to, I literally was showing up like a skeletal version of me in the sense of I'm physically here, but I'm not able.
How did you ever think, especially the second time, did it go through your mind, I might not make it?
Yes. No. The reason why it's a yes and no is because when I saw the oncologist the second time, he's like, all right. I said, what are we doing different? Am I going through another 6 months of chemo? He's like, no, we're going to do this transplant. He's like, we're going to kick this cancer in the butt with the toed shoes, is what he had said.
I like him.
I'm not going to name him because I don't want to get him in trouble. He just retired. But I did ask, I said, am I going to die? I literally did ask because like I'm a 20-something-year-old mom with a kid. He was like, not on my watch. That's all I had to hear. I was like, if he believes I'm going to make it, then I'm going to make it. From there, I stopped, all doubt erased. I said, give me the chemo. They explained to you over and over how sick you're going to be through the process. The documents you sign permission to have this transplant says you may die on many, many pages. And it's like, check. Yes, here's my name. Check. Jemma. Check. Oh, yeah.
Do you still keep in touch with some of the people there at the hospital?
I did keep in touch with my oncologist. He's retired now. So yeah, but like, here's a cooler story I have talking about being active in life, right? Because of this, I had never been an active person, like at all. Never went to the gym, didn't do 5Ks, like whatever. I was a person who just didn't work out. Anyways, I have a stepbrother who trains MMA fighters. And when I was going through the transplant process, he came to see me. And he's not the warm, fuzzy type to be like, oh, little sister, I hope you make it. I love you. He's like, when we're done with this, you're going to go lose weight. I'm going to train you. And I was like, because I get it. Obesity is, a big part of a cancer diagnosis. And I was 255 pounds before I was diagnosed at that time. And that's pretty big for a 5'3" frame. Oh yeah. So I got trained by him at first. And then I fired him because I thought he was out to kill me. I had never worked out before. So I went to his gym. He put me through a circuit where I like did a weight machine and he's like, go run around the track. And I go, run around the track? I'm like, why? I was like, what kind of workout is this? And then so anyways, yeah, I had one training session with him and I was like, I love you, but forget about you. I'm going to go to Valley Total Fitness and hired a trainer and then found out they do the same thing. So I paid for a different trainer. And so anyways, I wanted to get into something. So being that I'm from Chicago, we have the Sears Tower and the John Hancock. And there's a sport called tower running. It's stair climbing.
They do that in the city out here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so tower running or stair climbing. And so the Hancock has Hustle Up the Hancock, where you can do the full 102 or 103 floors, whatever it is, or you can do the half, where you take the elevator halfway up and then you still finish at the very top. I signed up for that. And this is where the cool story comes in from. I had two oncologists. I had the regular oncologist who I had throughout the 2 times I was diagnosed. And then I had
Mhm.
a transplant oncologist as well. I went and I did the half climb. I trained for that. I get to the top of the staircase. I'm out of breath. And there's a big party when you get off of the top floor. And I see all these people with medical t-shirts on. And it's the name of the hospital I was at. And I recognize the faces of the nurses. They were my oncology nurses I had in the hospital. And so my transplant was in September. That climb was in February of the following year. So we're looking at maybe give or take 6 months since I last saw. I go up to one of them. I said, "Oh my God, I don't know if you remember me, but my name is Jemma. I had my transplant at this time at your hospital." She looks at me. It takes her a minute. She's like, "Oh my God, I remember you now." I was like, "Yeah, imagine me bald," because by this time my hair was grown up a little bit. And so she's like, "The doctor's here. You have to see him." Because she's like, "Did you just run up the stairs?" And clearly you can tell because we're all wearing racing bibs. I was like, "Yeah, I guess I did." She pulled me and she brought me to him. And then, of course, I had to trigger his memory too. I was like, I was in the hospital during these dates. I had like, my mom was this woman. She's a nurse. She was very active in my care. And like, he remembered me. And he's like, "You just do the stair climb?" I said, "I did the half, but yes." And so like, he was so excited and so proud. It was amazing.
That is amazing that you went ahead and did something like that, because most people don't take it that far, right? They don't look at it as a lease on life.
Yeah.
And it's good that you did that, and you're doing things that are incredible for someone who 6 months out goes and does this. That's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I got really lucky because I honestly think if my stepbrother never said anything, I don't know if exercise would have became a part of my life.
And that's what I was going to actually say into the segue, because now you're doing all kinds of athletic things. It was that catalyst that got you going to where you are now.
Oh yeah, exactly. So from there, when I was at Valley Total Fitness back in the day, I had a male trainer. He was great. I loved him. I had just done that stair climb. I was like, "What's next? What else can I do?" And he's like, "Oh, you can do like a 5K." I was like, "What's a 5K?" I don't know what this is. And ironically, my first 5K was a turkey trot. The following year, I did the same turkey trot because it was in the same town, and I walked it.
Can I go back to your story real quick?
Yeah.
I want to ask you something.
Lymphoma?
Oh, the Hodgkin
And
lymphoma.
you went to your primary care provider, which is your regular doctor that you had for years.
Right.
And he's like, "Oh yeah, it's nothing."
Right.
What did that teach you about doctors, number one? After everything you went through with your body, I came from the school of thought of trust my doctor. They're the professional. They have a credential. They know what's what. What would you tell someone who their doctor may have brushed this off and they're like, "My doctor said it's nothing," but you feel something?
Right.
What would you tell someone?
What I tell everybody is get a second opinion. I'm glad my mom pushed for me to go to her clinic because, like I said at the time, my logic was like, why am I going to your doctor? He's an infectious disease doctor. What do I have? I can't have anything that serious, right? And it's an infectious disease doctor that tells me I have a textbook case of lymphoma. Obviously, this is something he has learned when he was in pre-med, right? Before he went through specialty. My biggest thing is I tell people all the time, speak up for yourself. You are your own best advocate. If you truly feel like my doctor is smoking something or is just he's wrong, I'm right, something's not right with my body, especially like I've been in part of the cancer community for 23 years now, right? I hear people who have been through similar situations as myself who are like, okay, the blood test might come out fine, my scan might come out fine, but like thing is still wrong. And it's our insurance at the end of the day. Like you can only have certain scans. An x-ray has to MRI, and MRI is only for a certain particular reason. Cancer is found through PET scans, depending upon the type of cancer it is.
What was where it said this, "I'm doing my own thing"?
I've only had my business for 5 years. I have 2 businesses. My consulting business started in 2015. I've always been entrepreneurial ever since I was younger. Like when I was a kid, I don't know if you guys had like your little plastic or wooden fake kitchens as a little girl. Like mine was wood because we're all around the same age. Like mine was made of wood, it's not plastic. And I would play restaurant in my little kitchen and all this stuff. And then sometimes I'd play teacher. I was always something. I didn't know what that looked like as you grew up. Back in those days, there wasn't a degree for entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship had to have a brick and mortar business. That's why I didn't do it in my 20s. I didn't start until I was already in my later 30s, right? I have always worked in accounting. That's my background. And management. I started helping out a friend of mine who's a CPA. And so I used to bartend too. I always had 2 jobs. I
Didn't know that.
Oh yeah, I always had the 9 to 5 and something else. I bartended at night. And then I got to an age where I was like, I'm too old to be up till 2 in the morning bartending for people. I figured this out in my 30s, right? But anyways, so I asked my friend, I was like, "Hey, do you know anyone who needs a receptionist at night during tax season?" He's like, "I can utilize you. You have an accounting background. You're going to do more than answer the phone." We even like bypassed the reception job. He already had a receptionist. I went straight into doing taxes. But at the time I was like, not going to be an employee of his. So I said, "Well, how am I going to do this?" He's like, "You're going to be a contractor." And I said, "Okay, great. What does that mean?" And he's like, "Have you ever thought about consulting?" I was like, "What am I going to consult?" I was like, "Consult on accounting? Isn't accounting like a consultant job in a sense?" And so we started talking about it more. And he's like, "You can be able to do not only this for me, but for other people." And I said, "Okay." And then I started off just doing, just consultant in tax, but like I was really assisting in doing the tax files and stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. But then I was able to start, what I did was originally Gemstone Consulting Group. was I worked with entrepreneurs who were very early on in their business who had not hired their first employee. I had realized that I'm very operationally minded. I was always the one, like when I first started a job, if they're like, oh, we have nothing to train with you with, so here's the manual to our software, or here's the manual built by somebody else for you.
Been there.
I was building out those manuals with Microsoft Word before you could do it with Canva and all the. And now you can
Right.
there's AI. I can just talk to it and it'll do it for me, right?
It'll
But like
do it for you.
way back when, I had to learn how to cut and paste. Like
Yeah.
I would work with entrepreneurs like you guys, and if you were like, I don't know if I should hire an accountant first, a manager first, or whatever, so I would come in, I would sit with the business owner and learn all about their business. It's a cleaning business, it's an accounting, bookkeeping business, whatever it would be. And then I would help them figure out. First of all, I would help them put together an SOP or their playbook, so their manual, all the things they do. From there, we would determine, do you just need a generalist, like someone who can just do a little bit of everything, or do you need a really accountant? And then before they hire that person, I'd be that person for 90 days. And that way also I can create the job description and everything. And then we would hire out. And then we would interview and whatnot. And then I would train them. The business owner wouldn't have to train them. I'd be like, okay, I'm going to train her to be your generalist. Then I would train her. And then I would say, hasta la vista. And I'd be out in a few months. And then I would do it again with somebody else. And that's how Gemstone Consulting Group came to be. Yeah, it's been around since 2015. It took a backseat about 5 years ago or so. I was in an accounting job, but I had gotten laid off. I took my package and I was like, I don't want to be behind a desk anymore. I want to be doing something else. I loved the consulting thing, but with tech and everything, things were changing so fast that I needed to adapt and I just wasn't in the mood to do it yet. I went on to work in the commercial cleaning space. I became an operations manager for a commercial cleaning company that's a franchise. I worked with two brothers. One was the entrepreneurial brother who just went into this business because he didn't want a job and work 9 to 5 for somebody else. Then his brother, who was his business partner, was former military and had a corporate job. But he would work after his 9 to 5. The two brothers, when they interviewed me, I originally was supposed to be just an office manager. And then they said I was overqualified based on my skill set and my resume. So they sat and they said, give us a couple of days, we'll get back to you. We want you, but we need to figure out for what. Then they came back a couple days later and I was like, so what did you guys come up with? They were like, if we can teach our business in 3 months, can you run our operations?
We could go home.
Pretty much in a nutshell. At the time, I didn't know what I was signing up for. And I was just like, yeah, I'm glad I said yes way back when. So I said yes. This was 2016. So I said yes to them. And I literally was like a child with divorced parents, except it was two brothers. So during the day from like 10 to 2, I would be with the entrepreneurial brother and I would learn sales, how to do bids, how to have client relations, talk to people. Then at night, we would get into the grocery store parking lot nearby and I would go to the other brother's car. And then I would meet the cleaning crew and I would learn how to clean. They sent me with their mom to learn how to clean. She was a tough woman. I learned how to clean because cleaning your house is not cleaning an office space. I learned how to inspect buildings, like what to look for when the cleaning is not being done correctly and stuff like that. 3 months later, they jumped ship, went to Mexico for vacation. I had every fire possible happen, but I survived. I ran their business up until about 2021, right before COVID. I already had moved on to a different job. And I had a coworker who I met there and he was like, things are not the same without you. And I would like to have my own cleaning business. And I said, okay. And KayCee knows this to be my business partner. I was like, sure, I can help you get your paperwork done. I'm an accountant, so I know what to do online. I created the business for him. And then he was like, can you help me get clients? I'm very social and I'm a national networker. So I was like, all right, yeah, I think I know some people. I can ask to see if they have spaces to clean. Sure enough, I got him a restaurant and a couple offices.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then after that, he was like, well, can you help me manage it? At this point, I'm still not taking out any kind of payment. Like I don't get paid for my help. And I said, if you want me to manage, we need to start talking numbers.
Yep.
Easy Clean Group is the commercial cleaning company I own, which will be called Onyx Works as of May 1st. It was owned by me and my business partner at the time. And then after year 1, year 2, we became official partners with me being 51% owner. I wanted to be majority owner because I wanted to go for women-owned business. Then in year 3, we had a falling out with one another. And the problem was, is as you guys know in entrepreneurship, it is one hell of a roller coaster ride. It is not a straight path. It is not an easy path. There are days you're wondering if you're going to pay your rent or pay your staff. And so he couldn't handle that roller coaster ride.
They don't tell you that. They don't tell you that.
Yeah, no idea like the amount of panic attacks you have. One day you're like flying high, things are great, you're making your numbers. The next day you're like, oh my God, payday's coming for my staff and I don't have money.
Hell, the mortgage is coming.
Right? Unfortunately, he couldn't handle that. The difference is I was lucky. I came from a corporate background. So of course I had some money put aside. He was a worker and lived check to check. So he just was not ready for the storm that we had to go through. And so it didn't work out. And ironically, I was at a blocks training. I was in grad school at the time. And I brought it to my coaches and said, hey, this is my situation. Pretty much in a nutshell, I walked out feeling very confident to tell my business partner we were partners no more and what that exit strategy looked like. So we parted ways and everything. I mean, we still talk every now and again. He's, I don't want to say a friend, but like an associate, former colleague I can talk to every now and again.
Right.
I've definitely grown the business since then. When we first started the company, we only made those in 2021. 2022, we made $176,000 in gross revenue sales.
Wow.
2023, we made 212. 24 was 325, and for 2025 we were at 25K. So I made it to the $500,000 gross revenue mark.
Great.
2 years of that was without him. So the first 3 years was us together. So,
Okay.
So yeah.
But you guys were able to separate amicably, which is not the norm.
The only reason why it worked out that way, though, was because the litmus test when we went to an attorney to dissolve the partnership was who was doing majority of the work. Part of the problem was that I created the company, even though it was in his name. I found the clients, he did the work, but I also cleaned as well in the beginning. Then I found the cleaners when we were able to start hiring. And then he did take out a business loan to help with the initial stuff of payroll, but I supplemented our business through my own personal funds, loaning money to the company. Since I did majority of the work, and at this point I had more cash into the business than he did, our way of departure was I paid off the loan that he had taken, and then I covered 6 months of his living expenses. So it was like, I will bridge the gap to whatever is coming next for you.
So you offered him a severance.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Yeah. That sounds so not textbooky, but because I'd gone to the blocks and grad school part of it, it sounds right on par from what they would do.
I was glad to have that kind of support because it just really helped keep me structured and kept me keeping my one foot forward in front of the other. Because if I did that by myself, I feel like it was such an emotional ride because you build it with somebody. And then what broke my heart, it was like being in a relationship. It is a relationship, right?
It is.
It broke my heart that this person's heart wasn't in it the way mine was. My blood, sweat, and tears and his blood, sweat, and tears were on the same level. So to me, I was like, you're quitting on me. Like, I never quit on you, but you're quitting on me.
Right.
With this attitude and all the things and stuff like that. But it ended up, and I did go through a grieving process because it was weird to run the business on my own without that counterpart.
Yeah.
To rely on, like, hey, can you take care of this?
What did you learn from that experience, though?
For me, what I learned is that first and foremost, it sounds very formal, but it's very true. I don't care if it's your sister, your best friend, or a former coworker. You better have some damn documents in place.
Yep.
Yes.
That's what we did before we even did our show the first day. One of the things we did an agreement,
our contracts.
Contract.
Oh yeah. And some people are like, oh, you don't need that. No, I don't. Like I said, I don't care the relationship.
Yeah,
it's just better for the two parties because that way, hopefully, the relationship that started before the business, like the friendship, the sibling, familial relationship, can still be intact when all is said and done if things go sideways.
One of the things that Ian and I said when I even told her, she's bringing stuff to the table that is like, what? That's why she's the producer. There's things that I bring, but there's things that she brings. And one of the things I hated with corporate, which I do with us, okay, this year, what are you going to do to add on your plate and take off of hers? And I told her, I'm not trying to do what you do. Trust, I am not. That's one of the things I think that when you're going into business with somebody or somebody's, get a clear distinction of what is going to be going on because you got too many cooks in the kitchen and then you got salty soup.
Yep.
I take some of the little things off of E's plate.
Yep.
But she still has the big stuff.
Right.
Yeah. I ain't trying to run up your back to do everything. Trust me.
That makes total sense. And I would even take it a step further from what I heard from you is you want to interview the person that you're going into business with because you said you had an entrepreneurial mind. He obviously didn't. He had a worker.
Right.
So you come from corporate. He comes from day-to-day living check to check. So that in itself, you guys were not compatible for being business partners.
Exactly. Yeah. It's crazy because it's almost like, I feel like a business partnership is even like a relationship partnership. It's marriage or just being life partners, right? Because what we should have done is gone to the table and said, what is this going to look like? It was more so flying by the seat of our pants. Because even when I initially set it up just for him, I didn't have the conversation of what does that look like for you? And are you ready for the things that's going to happen as an entrepreneur and giving up your job and the stability of a check, right? It was just like, yeah. It was just yes, move, action, yes, action, saying yes and action, but no planning in between. And then like they say, people don't plan to fail. It's those who fail to plan. We failed to plan. And so, yeah, that's what happened with us and everything. He even went on to start his own cleaning company. I don't know how that's going for him because I have, again, like you said, the compatibility. I have all the know-how. I know what it takes to hire, what interviews to do, what it takes to have money, where to get money from, being resourceful and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's the same, like when you're in a partnership, whether it's for life, marriage, whatever you want to call it, you and your person have to sit and be like, what does our future look like? Are we always going to live in this condominium? Are we going to go retire somewhere? What are we doing with children? It's really interesting because I follow Vivian too, who is known as like the rich BFF. She's very popular on Instagram. She's written books about to work in Wall Street in the stock market. And now she gives advice to people like us to how to be successful. And she has this thing in her book It's really cute. You have your finance date with your significant other once a month, and it has to be fun. It's not just here's our QuickBooks or Excel spreadsheets and our bank statements. It's like, hey babe, we're gonna have pizza, but we're also gonna talk about, are we contributing to our 401k? What is our plan with vacation? Like all the things. So it's not just like a, hey, I'm gonna send you a calendar invite. We're gonna sit over Zoom together, like 2 employees discussing stuff, right? It's so important in business and personally you have to have the talks, no matter what.
That it's so different, work and personal, but it really isn't. It really isn't.
I even think that I'm more in communication with E a lot of the times, and sometimes just by overhearing the conversation or I tell him what we're doing, we have to be on the same wavelength, even down to I'll wake up in the morning, I'm like, you know what? I don't dislike what I'm doing, but I'm over it today. And then we go on and we do a show and then we're all is right with the world. But there's days when I'm looking for E, whether she realizes it or not, to pick me up, and I'll call her like, hey, you don't sound right.
Yeah.
So being in tune with that, we take turns. And
Yes.
again, it's learning somebody, and you either it's going to work or it's not.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
One thing I wanted to think before I forget. Now, going back to the blocks, I don't know if we really actually talked about it, not even so much the grad school, because not everybody knows about the grad school portion until you've gone through the actual blocks itself. How did you feel about doing it? Not so much did you like it, but it's like when I went, for example, I didn't know what I was expecting. I was scared shitless, different city, different people, by myself, having to talk about my business when I barely knew about my business myself. I've been doing it for a few years, poorly, I might add, but still doing it. And having to get up and talk off of these topic questions, being recorded, being videoed, and then you have to sit and get critiqued. That was a lot.
Yeah, you mean when we were filming the actual blocks?
Yeah.
I got to go on stage one of the nights. I got to compete in the games at the end of the day, one of the nights. But yeah, I didn't even know what I was doing when I went to the blocks. I was on Instagram one night, doom scrolling at 2 a.m. and there was this ad. It was like, we're looking for entrepreneurs. And I was like, but why? Because I am one. I'm like, I'm an entrepreneur. And it was like, do you want to be on TV? I was like, sure. Just saying yes to all the things. And I was like, it was like, click here. And I clicked and filled out the thing and forgot about it and was like, no one's going to call me. Who wants to deal? Because I applied for the commercial cleaning company, not my operations consultant business. And I was like, no one's going to call me for this. It's not exciting. It's not exciting for TV. So I get called like months later and I go through the casting process and I get cast. But yeah, like I didn't know what to expect, but I just knew like we're going to be in a week-long boot camp. And that was it. And being filmed. But yeah, we learned like all the great things about like your playbook or your SOPs, your hiring and stuff like that. You go through that for the 6 days that we're there. And then there's just another level to it. After that, when the cameras are all off, it's still business at the end of the day. Wes, who's from MTV and is the founder of this, he created a thing called grad school. You go on to graduate to the next level. You saw, I went to it before you did, KayCee.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to expect either. I just knew that fortunately, 2 other women and I from our season had applied at the same time and we were crossing fingers we were all going to be there. And we were. Season 17 had some representation. I was cohort number 5 for grad school. So there was myself and 2 other people from our season. It was great because we were there for a few days as well, but we got to have different coaches to talk to and there was more one-on-one time.
It was.
I really loved because it was never cookie cutter to begin with, which is what I like about the blocks in their program, because you sign up for some of these coaching things and you're going to watch these modules and you're going to do these things. And it's like, it doesn't, you own a supplement company, a cleaning company, or a PR firm. We're all doing the same thing.
Right.
But what I liked about this was like, no, I own a commercial cleaning company. These are my issues. Help talk me through these issues. So that's what I loved about it. And so from my personal entrepreneur journey, I'm still part of Beta Blocks Corporation as far as being a client. I went on to do what's called Beta Blocks Mentorship. It's a 2-year program where you get coached, except what is the end game goal is that you become $1 million gross revenue sale business. So if in the 2 years you don't get to that number, you can either make the million right off the bat or you can do it cumulatively. Even after my 2 years is up, I'm held contractually liable to get it to $1 million because they are going to help me get there as well. One way or another, I will get to $1 million business and Wes will get paid for helping me do that. I think there's value too in having an accountability partner. It's finding someone to hold you accountable. And if you can't do that in your circle of friends or in the circle of your network, you can always do it by being part of a great program and vetting out the program first, obviously. That's big for me because I'm a solopreneur technically now. Like when I was on the show with KayCee, our last night, we all got to talk to Wes for a few minutes and whatnot. It seems dark, but I'm not being dark about it. When I went up to him and thanked him, I said, being an entrepreneur is similar to having cancer. And he's how so? Because he was kind of like thrown off by it. And when you're diagnosed with cancer, you feel like you're the only person in the world going through it. It doesn't matter if it's the most common cancer in the world. You think it's just you. It's such an isolating experience because even though you have the family, the friends, and all the people, it's only you going through it. And when you're an entrepreneur, business partner or not, it's only you or the 2 of you that are going through it. And even though you have each other, you may still feel isolated because maybe you don't want to go to that partner and share with them your fears because you're the motivated friend. You don't want to let them know that like I still have, but like if you actually look at it, once you accept the role, you're diagnosed with cancer, you have this business, you find out that there's a community out there. For myself as a former patient, was connected to other groups within the cancer community to find out there's other people who had Hodgkin's and had cancer. I went on to be a public speaker for the American Cancer Society. I review proposals for the American Cancer Society now. So yes, I'm a part of that and another organization called Immerman Angels One-on-One Cancer Support, where they help you connect to a cancer patient or to a caregiver if you're a caregiver yourself. The blocks was a similar thing for me in the sense of I was brought into a room full of entrepreneurs, right? And now there's no end of us. There's so many of us, and it's not as isolating anymore because now I can text KayCee and be like, "Hey, how are you doing out there? You keeping your head above water? Like, I haven't talked to you in a few months." I do that with others from our cast and people I met along the way. It's just really nice because usually half the time, like, I don't know if I just have impeccable timing, but usually I'm texting somebody months later when someone's going through something major in their business. And they're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you reached out. I really needed to share this with someone." Like, that's why I told Wes what I did in regards to, like, to me, from my two experiences between being a cancer survivor and an entrepreneur, the similarities are the isolating feeling, but no, finding out later there's a community there to support you.
Okay.
Yeah.
One thing I like too is, I mean, you are with other entrepreneurs. Like I said, they can relate. Maybe not, we're in different genres, but they can relate to it. And when I would hear, "Oh, you got to be out of your mind to want to be an entrepreneur," I didn't get it at first. And you really do, because things that used to scare the living shit out of me, now it's like, okay, well, we just got to pivot.
Yep.
I still might be scared shitless, but it's like, you got to pivot. There's more than one way to skin a cat, as they say.
I wanted to ask you this because people talk about winning all the time. People talk about grinding, hustle culture, all those things, but they don't talk about the cost of it all, right? What did you take from it that people don't see?
Oh, well, there's a lot, actually. When KayCee and I met 2 years ago, I was in the middle of getting divorced. I don't know, KayCee, if you remember that or not, but yeah, I was in the middle of getting divorced.
Yeah, but I wasn't going to bring that up.
No,
That's not my story.
Oh, no, I was just looking to see if I saw your face acknowledge. Oh, yeah, I remember that. I'm fine with telling the story. But yeah, when I went to, we were in Oklahoma. I was like, where did we meet?
Oklahoma, yeah.
Yeah, when we were in Oklahoma filming, it was the first time I was going through the journey of pursuing myself, if that makes sense. So, everyone's an onion, everyone's multi-layered, right? So, in my lifetime, I have been married 3 times and divorced 3 times. And that can be a whole nother podcast episode in itself. But anyways, there's a whole lot of healing work behind that. But anyways, the point is that I found myself my 3rd time have been married and now I'm getting divorced, right? And like I had started this business and things just weren't going the way I wanted it to, right? I have 2 hard things going on at the same time. And like here I am at the show to compete. I felt like I was not in a winning position at that point, right? Because I was struggling with things with my business partner. I'm struggling with things in my family life. And I'm just at the same time, the whole point is that I was working with a therapist also. And when you work with a therapist, they always ask you, like, what's your intention and goal of working with me? When I started working with her 2 years ago, also around that same time frame, I said, I want to be okay being alone when my divorce is done. And so she was like, okay, cool. That's what we work towards. Leaving behind my marriage, it was incompatible long before business, but like being okay, I had never been by myself. So by the time I met KayCee, I was already living in my own condominium for 2 years. I didn't have my son with me. My son's 25 now. My entire life since the age of 17, I've always been in a relationship, and my child came when I was 21. I was always cohabitating with somebody or responsible for someone. I was never just solely responsible for myself. And then finally, I was in a position where I was responsible for myself, pursuing the things I want. I wanted to be on this show. I wanted to expose myself to other entrepreneurs. I wanted to learn more, do better, do things for me. There was a lot of no that I was saying in a time frame of life where I was always saying yes. So that was one of the sacrifices at the end of the day. I don't know if I can say if my marriage was a happier place, if I still would have been getting divorced or not. I would think probably not, but it definitely wasn't. And even in my business, we were struggling because when my business partner and I started it, we were the ones cleaning. So we didn't have to technically have a payroll, and by this time we had grown, and I think I had 5 or 6 cleaners. I now have 22 on staff.
Oh, wow.
So thank you. The responsibilities have changed over the years. But at that time, like, it was hard to make rent for 2 people. It wasn't just my rent, it was his rent, because my business partner, obviously we're not a couple. My ex-spouse and my ex-business partner are not the same person. Just when we started off the business, we weren't making enough money to give 2 incomes in a sense. So it was like, okay, well, and that was one of the things too, the sacrifice. I had a savings. So I was like, okay, well, I'll pay my rent and the business will pay his. Okay, I can't afford to give myself a draw, but we'll give him a draw. And it was hard because it was like, is that right? Was it smart for business? Now I can tell you probably not. Back then, it was so emotional too. I was so early in the game and so much emotionally going on in life. I just didn't know how to shut off the emotion to be like, from a business standpoint, we should just get a draw of X, whether it meets the criteria of paying our lifestyle or not. Fair. But because I was being emotional about it, it was like, okay, well, I feel bad. He needs to keep his roof over head. He doesn't have savings. Of course, let the business pay for his stuff and let me just use my personal assets to do things. And it was tough, the sacrifice of time, sleep, social life. I utilized it in my divorce as well, and my business it was easy to hide behind them because you're working, you're grinding, you're doing so many things. But at the same time, I used it to my advantage to not address some personal things early on, and have since then worked those out, because now it's 2026. I work with a therapist. I do shadow work. I do a lot more planning and talking with somebody else in regards to what life looks like for me, because I didn't know who I was outside of a relationship. Now I do. I know who I am as an entrepreneur. I know who I am as a woman who's getting older. There is a whole lot of sacrifice. And that roller coaster ride, even when I make my numbers someday and get to my end goal, the ride will always be going, whether it's going through a loop-de-loop, a drop, just going straight. Because one of the things too I learned is that being an entrepreneur and owning a business will expose you to everything about yourself. The good, the bad, the ugly, and the in-between. It's got a bright side and it's got a dark side. At the end of the day, all of us that are true survivors will be standing at the top of the hill when it's over. But sometimes they do say that living a successful life does have its drawbacks of loneliness, because you really, again, isolation. How many of you are part of the 1 or 2%ers, right? At the end of the day, compartmentalizing things, like sticking things in a bucket and bringing that bucket back out later, forgetting about that bucket because it'll rear its ugly head if you leave it alone too long.
Oh, absolutely. And to try to have some part of a personal life, whatever that might be, but because you have to have something.
No, I completely get that. It's trial and error at the end of the day, because like when I first got into this commercial cleaning business, it was like I just had my head down. I just kept going and going. But here we are. We're entering into my 5th year in business now. And like I took 2 real vacations last year for the first time ever. And by real vacation, so I went to Mexico with a friend. We were gone for 3 nights and 4 days. I literally left my phone because I didn't want it on the boat. I left my phone in the safe. And I made sure I had all the things that I needed covered, right? But I don't have why are you on your phone? Get off your phone. She's like, where's your phone? I was like, back in the room. You set the rules. I'm playing by them. Sometimes I like to break them, but playing by them for the most part. It was nice to learn that I'm one who writes down all my goals, right? A goal has a date attached to it. Anything without a date attached is a dream, right? So I have all these goals for the entire year. And so what that does is it breaks it down to smaller pieces rather than being like, I want to be at $1 million gross revenue sales by the end of the year. I'm not going to get there in 2 days. I'm not going to get there in 2 months. And I'm not going to get there by focusing on one thing for the next remaining, how many months we have left? 8 months of the year.
God, don't even.
So yeah, so that's why you break it down. You're like, okay, my accounting needs improvement. So for these next 6 weeks, I'm doing QuickBooks. Then after that, the weather is getting warmer. It's back to sales for 6 straight weeks. I'm going to try to get myself out there door knocking, because in commercial cleaning, you can do all the cold emailing and calling you want. It's easier to just be in person, do the sale, because you're not like what's not cleaned or whatever. I've been focusing things on now, like my operations, my stuff, because as I do grow my revenue and stuff, I can't scale on my own.
Correct.
I want to be the CEO and the visionary. I need to stop being the manager and the day-to-day person. So my admin's the first thing. I'm eventually planning to hire a operations supervisor or a field operations person. I already looked to my staff to see if I can promote within, and none of them are, they all have jobs during the day. Most of the people that work for me, they can't inspect buildings and do additional things. They can do odd end cleanings that we don't have contractual. I work with realtors. So whenever they're selling a home, they want the house clean. That's an extra project my staff's willing to do, but they're not willing to take on the responsibility of checking buildings or things like that.
That's why I found I needed the help too with scaling. See, that's the thing. It's like we can all go and we can start a business, but how do you scale? That's the key.
It's the key in the business type. So you have to make sure that you have a business that is scalable too.
True.
Right.
Absolutely.
Because some people don't look at business as being scalable, and that's how you get caught into being everything. A one-man show, a solopreneur. Oh, I like what Jemma said. When you set goals, you have to put a date behind it.
Absolutely.
If you don't have a date behind it, it's a dream. And I love that, because we built like this guide. This is a shameless plug. Our Masogi guide.
Yeah.
It's a goal style guide, and it's for free for people. And we kind of break it down, the different types of goals, because you need to have a goal and set a date and map things out. If you don't do that, it's like what you said, it's just a dream. And dreams, you can sit up and dream all day long, but if you don't put anything to it, it's not a goal.
Yeah, like, all of us, I dreamt of having a beautiful wedding someday. The only way you can beautifully happen someday is when you actually plan it out once you know you were getting married, right?
Exactly.
I'm not going to just be like, I'm engaged, and ta-da, all the thoughts out of my head is going to come into fruition, and this thing's going to happen on its own.
Absolutely. I love this.
Yeah.
I could talk to you all day. We have so much in common. I want to ask this final question. So we call this podcast Disrupt and Discuss, right? Have disrupting conversations with very intricate, pivotal people, and you are one of them. What would you say, in your opinion, what does it mean to be a disruptor?
I think for me, honestly, I hope I can say it's all in a nutshell, from personal life to business. What it means to me to be a disruptor is go against the grain. Don't fit in a cookie cutter box. Be too much. I get told all the time, you're too much. You talk too much. You think too much. You plan too much. You're too much. My too muchness is enough for someone. It's enough for me. It's enough for the right people. It's enough for the universe. At the end of the day, I'm all about disrupting. Don't stick me in a box. Don't tell me what I can do. Give me the no, because I will find my yes.
Give me the no, because I will find my yes.
Yeah. The two brothers I worked for in commercial cleaning, when they found out I had a business, they told me I would fail because I didn't buy into a franchise. I made it to 525K last year in gross revenue sales. I'm sorry. I didn't join a franchise. Nothing against them.
Right.
But like,
I think you're fine.
I did what I was taught, and I did it. I gave my own spin on it, and here I am, and will continue to be. So I
love
found my
that.
yes, and I will continue to find the yes.
Thank you. KayCee, do you have anything else you want to add?
I just want to thank you for coming.
Thank you for
You've added everything. I've even learned things about you I didn't even know, and it just adds to why I felt drawn to you when we met. As I tell people when I meet people that are actually my friends, a lot of times I couldn't even tell you what they do because it's that initial connection that I have, and then when you find out that they some mucky muck or whatever, and it's like, oh my God, I didn't even know what you did.
Right.
Really, because again, it goes down to connection. I appreciate you being an entrepreneurial person because I remember the first conversation I had with you after we had come from the block. So what did I do? I freaking cried on the phone because it's overwhelming. But I want to warn you, E, after you spend a week and you come home to decompress, it is a lot. And I couldn't stop. And I go, Jemma, sorry, Jemma, I don't know why I'm crying. It's just a lot. She goes, yes, there's a lot that happened there. It is a lot. But again, I'm just thankful that you're here. We appreciate you. We don't take your time lightly.
Yes.
And that's it. Thanks.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Honor, a pleasure. I had a whole lot of fun, and I hope everyone that listens definitely gets a lot out of it.
I think they will. If they don't,
it wasn't meant for them.
I would definitely say that. Well, you guys, I hope that you can take something from this conversation with regards to her battle and her success with her health, with her business, with her entrepreneurial mindset. Just overall, we can call Jemma a Renaissance woman as well. She has gone through a lot. She has battled a lot, and she has come out on the side of winning, in my humble opinion. Take this episode, and I hope it motivates you to do some things, if not with your health, obviously with entrepreneurship or building a business or even setting goals. D&D family, we appreciate Jemma for coming here and gracing us with her presence.
Yes.
We love for you to like, comment, subscribe. For our YouTube folks, for our audio people, thank you so much for rocking with us. Until the next one, you guys.